Hey guys, good to see you already in the chat. Quite a few people already waiting. Feels like there's been a massive move in the market, but there hasn't really been. But I guess it's because of the 50k psychological kind of boundary that's been broken. I don't know. Audio, video, good. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Before I start saying anything, because I forgot last time, big shout out to Bybit for sponsoring the show. Appreciate their support. Their links are in the description. If you want to check them out, check them out. Yeah, appreciate their support. It's because of you, Doug. Oh, that's too kind, man. That's too kind. How are you guys doing? Everyone doing all right? Hope everyone buying the altcoin drops. Yeah, we'll talk about that too. Obviously, money is flowing back into Bitcoin. I mean, with a chart like this, unsurprising a little bit. We've been talking about like the moment Bitcoin starts breaking 50k, we're probably getting an altcoin move back into Bitcoin. That's just how the money flows in this market. But yeah, we'll see if there's any dips to get, if there's any bullish setups on the coins that we're tracking, and maybe even go through some of yours. I think terrible. What's terrible, Cred? He's already hating again. It's the only thing I hear from him. It's only ever hate, hate, hate. Never something good. Okay, let's start. High time frame. I mean, nothing's changed really. It's up only market until proven otherwise. And I mean, this would have to do a shitload to be starting to prove otherwise. So we'll not talk about this. Other than, I mean, we've had a consolidation here for a long time. We've had a strong move into consolidation, strong move out of consolidation, right? I still remember people making fun of the, okay, I have 20k breaks, it's gonna moon thing, because 20k seemed like a moon already. But I mean, that's been playing out pretty well, right? Everyone that bought 20k is pretty happy because they didn't have to go through this shit. They just went in and pretty much doubled their money instantly. So sometimes stuff like that, even if it's a meme, even if everyone talks about it, I mean, it just works, right? So that's pretty neat. Pretty much more than a double now, going from 20k, which is a fifth of 100k, to half of 100k, which is pretty impressive, not gonna lie. And the weekly time frame, same story. We do have support here though, which is pretty damn nice. The moment we kind of got this consolidation here, that made me pretty happy, because finally we have something to trade off of. If anything terrible happens, right? Let's say we get a nasty rejection. Where do we look for high time frame dips? I mean, that's the best area to look for, right? Are we gonna get that? I don't know. I mean, we're moving parabolically, so sometimes you just don't get the pullback. But if we do, I mean, we know what to do in this zone, right? And that's the best way to go about it, in my opinion. And yeah, that's at least the high time frame support finally. Besides the 20k high time frame support that we've had for ages now, never retested. Now we have a higher one, so if anything goes to shit, that's at least a barrier for price and a higher time frame idea to trade off of. And then on the lower time frames, we've just been having breakout after breakout. We talked about this before with Infinite Bit returning here. Turns out Elon, Jesus Christ, was buying, and then the announcement made us break out, right? And we've been trending upwards since then. The easiest way to trade this kind of stuff, or to kind of move in this market, is legitimately just assuming it's gonna go up, and then have an invalidation on that, right? And the invalidation has been good news, right? You don't want to see good news undercut. And in this case, that was basically, I mean, you've had the good news announce itself by Infinite Bit in here, but then the announcement of the good news of like Tesla getting into it was in here, so you don't want to see that undercut, and that makes for a neat invalidation, and then anything beyond that point, it's just, okay, you're zooming up until that breaks, and you're going to make good progress if you're going that way. New support at 72K. That's not how it works, brother. Is it just Don or is Cred in the mix too? It's always, Wednesday is always me, Monday is always Cred, and then Friday we do it together. So if you want to have us both, you need to come in Friday. You mean Ellen? Ah, Jesus Christ. I'm getting bullied every time. How do I deserve this? I don't know. Don't you pronounce Elon great now? The haters and losers need to find a new slant. I mean, there's plenty around, man. There's plenty around. But yeah, for me, this is still the best invalidation, right? You lose 40K, I think that's gonna be a world of pain. But I mean, it's not really looking like that's gonna be the case. We've had this. I mean, I've seen people draw this ascending wedge, whatever you wanna call it. Calling for one move or the other. I don't think it matters too much in a move like this, right? It just, what matters is, do we take out 40K? Anything else is just basically chop, and it's anything but interesting, in my opinion. I mean, you can draw supports, resistances in here, right? And those work and have been working, right? Draw support here, and you get a support resistance flip, and that works. But then again, like the picture already tells you, like the higher time frame picture already tells you everything you need to know, right? Which we've broken the high, we've moved up, and we're gonna move up until that gets invalidated, in my opinion, anyway. Did the newsletter go out yesterday? Yes, it did. So, okay. That's Bitcoin. I don't think there needs to be said much more about it. If you have any questions, let me know, because yeah, there's not really. I mean, when you're in price discovery, right? There's not really much that you can do. You can kind of like start fibbing and fib projecting targets up there. I don't really think that's accurate. You just take it as it goes, right? This goes parabolic, fine. Starts breaking down, fine. You know where the invalidation is, right? You don't have to overcomplicate it, because I mean, when you're in a market like this, the easiest way to kind of lose money is to overcomplicate it. Do you expect us to retest 50K? I mean, it could, yeah. I mean, that's kind of like in the low time frame area, and this has been my low time frame. That's what I've been looking at in the low time frames, and it's just resistance here, flipped into support, 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 triple test, and it moves up. So, I mean, that's the support. You could draw like one at 50K, but I don't think that helps you much. For me, it would be nicer to just move up instead of retesting 50K, just based on the fact that like Bitcoin's not been giving any easy entries, and 50K would be another one of those. But I mean, it could retest it without doing any damage to anything. The only kind of thing that you like on the lower time frames that you wouldn't want to see lost is basically in here, right? So 46K gets lost, and then I mean the lower time frames start rolling over, right? Anything besides that area doesn't really mean much, so it could chop in here, yeah. Do I expect it? Not. I mean, I could see it. I'm not really expecting anything other than up unless this breaks. Then I'd expect at least lower time frame consolidation. And what's your process for taking profits on longs when we're parabolic like this? I mean, what you're doing basically, right? And I've been saying this for months now. So you have this area, for example, right? And I mean, you could start way lower, but that's the last one that I have on the chart. So I'll just use this, right? You've been long from, let's say, in here. It goes up and puts in a consolidation like this, breaks out, right? And it's no trading in here. You don't have to, like your original invalidation might have been down here, right? So what you do is you move your invalidation up to there. and then it trades higher. And I generally try to avoid having just like my invalidation, like for example in this case, having it just at the nearest support. So I usually try to have one between me and the nearest support. So if that's unclear, so for example, if we're trading here, right? We're trading here currently. You could have your invalidation in here, but I'd much rather have it in here at that point. And then the same thing is true for you're trading up here in this area. You could have your invalidation in here, but I think that defeats the purpose because I mean that's just a good area to hit to people like to stop people out. So this one is the better kind of way to go about it. You get what I'm saying, right? So you're trying to kind of move up slowly, and then right now we're basically trading about 40k, right? So if you wanted to follow that example, you would be invalidated in here, which I still think is the best invalidation. But this would be the early one, and I think that's that's a good one now, just based on the fact that, like I said, it's a news candle, and you don't want to retrace news candles. And so what you do instead of just, okay, I want to take profit, what you can do is just move your invalidation higher and higher, and once it gets blown through, you just sit out and give it some time to kind of chill a bit. And in that way, you're gonna lose a bunch of profit at the top, but you're not gonna be the guy that just gets out of position early. And I know that's harder said than done. But I mean, it's the one thing that works best in markets like this. You could obviously also just take profits, and I mean, I'm not hating on that. In my opinion, it's just the best way to go about it is what I just said, and then the second best way is just taking profits along the way. Was the bear market profitable for you overall? I mean, pre-2021, was just wondering. Yeah, that was one of my most profitable kind of time to trade. Might have been because I got extremely lucky trading this, like pretty much all of this, almost perfectly. But yeah, this was really profitable for me. But then again, like the market just kind of traded my stuff really well because my stuff is really good in ranging markets. And then anything beyond ranging markets, what I do is this kind of stuff. So you kind of just assume it's going to go up if it's trending and have an invalidation on that. Harder said than done is pretty rare. Harder done than said, whatever. You get what I'm trying to say. There's always something to bully me about. It's so terrible. But yeah, that's basically Bitcoin, right? You're just gonna expect it to go up, and I mean, it just kind of looks like it wants to accelerate and accelerate and accelerate. So until that kind of stops, I mean, that's gonna be what Bitcoin does, right? ETHUSD, a little bit different, right? Same kind of invalidation idea, just ETHUSD being a lot weaker. So we have the all-time high break here. So if you look back, that was the 2018-17 high, right? And we broke that, and you don't want to see a move back below it because that's basically like a news breakdown. So you have the same kind of situation. You don't want to be trading back below that. Anything besides that, it can do whatever it wants up here, right? The only thing that you don't want to see is it trading back below here. And if that happens, I would expect it to either go sideways or go down. Both of those don't really lend, like it makes not much sense to kind of go aggressive in those circumstances. So as long as it's trading above here, it's all good. If it does trade below it, then that would mean you'd have to kind of think about the market. But given that that's not the case, still looking good on the higher time frames, still looking good on the lower time frames. It's just in comparison to Bitcoin, it looks incredibly weak. We'll talk about the ETH-BTC pair in a bit. But that can change at any time, right? It's changed a couple times. Like it's looked really weak in the past, and it's kind of made grounds again and kind of caught up. So that can change quickly. And yeah, anything above 1.4 still looking good. Up or down? I mean, I'm saying up. Like that's the thing, right? If you're saying up or down, and you're trading, it doesn't really make much sense to just say up or just say down, what you always have to say if you're trading it anyway, up unless X happens, and if X happens, I'm wrong, right? Because if you don't know where you're wrong, you're gonna pretty much lose everything you got. Because we as humans, we cannot really see, like if you don't systematically kind of have a point where you're wrong, most likely you're just gonna tell yourself you're not wrong until it's too late, right? So the people that are just saying up and I'm not gonna be wrong, I mean, it's been working really well, right? But at some point that's gonna stop working. I don't know if it's gonna be here or anywhere else. So it's always nice to have an invalidation, and that invalidation really hasn't happened in a long time. So it doesn't really take away anything. If anything, it makes you more secure in your position, right? And in my opinion, this is the biggest level that we have. So that should act as support. And something that I've talked about on Twitter before is you don't want to see that retested even. Like when we pulled back here, I was like, do you guys want to, like I made a poll, I think. Do you want to see the all-time high getting retested or not? And in my opinion, you don't want to see it, because if you get that free trade, it's probably, I mean, it's probably going to be a trap, because it's just like, it's too obvious a trade. So everyone that kind of wants to take it should be front running it. And that's what happened in here, right? So we got the front run, something that you want to see. And in my opinion, that's a new invalidation, the front run of that. You don't want to see anything back below there. But like I said, if you start trading back below all-time high, that would be the definitive kind of, okay, now it's time to chill. But nothing really tells me that that's going to be the case from here. Like it's just consolidating, right? And with Bitcoin as strong as it is right now, it would be surprising to see ETH pull back massively, other than if Bitcoin just crashes, which there's no indication of either. And ETH BTC is the one that there's like mixed signals on, like depending on how you draw your support resistance levels. I like both of these, like the red one and the green one. I like both of them. If you're a more aggressive kind of person, the green one, it's already invalidated the bullish case on ETH BTC, right? Based on a breakout and then a failure to hold the support level. If you're more of the cautious kind of guy or girl, I don't discriminate, then you don't want to see a loss of this red level, right? So those are the two ones to watch. I don't really mind. I like both. I think I like the green one more on a technical kind of sense, and I like the red one more just based on my gut feeling. But yeah, if we lose both, that would make me think it's probably heading lower in general, unless we just go back up again. Then that would make for an incredibly good long setup, because then you can take the low, slap your stop loss on there, and then just target higher, right? And then you have like a trade from here to whatever previous highs here, which is a pretty good trade. Also, very much appreciate these streams, bro. Your boss. Thank you very much, man. Appreciate you coming by. Basically, what would be your invalidation of this bull cycle from a macro point of view? Holy shit, you're getting far out there. Like, invalidating this bull cycle is pretty hard, right? You cannot really invalidate it on a higher time frame basis unless you're trading back below 20K. That would be invalidating the bull market cycle, because, I mean, that's not something that usually happens with Bitcoin in a bull market, right? So on a macro view, you wouldn't want to see 20K get lost. And even then, like if you kind of wick through 20 to 14K, it would still be a macro bull market if it does start trading back above 20K again. But yeah, that would be the macro view. Doesn't really help you much because you can't trade based off of that. Unless, like I said, it starts trading back below 20K, and then you can take trades off of that. But I mean, it doesn't really help you much in a market that's going parabolic like this. Doesn't really provide much context that would help you out in trading this thing. But yeah, that would be my, okay, macro-wise, bull market might be finished. And that might change, right? Like, let's say we're going sideways here, or we go sideways at 70K, but build a nice base, push back up a little, and then crush the base. And then that would look different, right? Then I would say, okay, now we might be in for a macro pullback. But ending the macro bull market would have to be a mega dump, which, I mean, doesn't really make much sense to assume, right? So yeah, but yeah, that's my view. If you're on the cautious side of things, we're trading below support, but it's still fine-ish. Fundamentals on Bitcoin are looking good again. Yeah, the higher the price goes, the better the fundamentals look, right? It's always been the case. Does funding impact your bias? It does somewhat when we're trading in a range. Like when you're trading in here, you look at funding and you know exactly how it's going to play out, right? Funding's been incredibly good on that side of things. If you're trading in here, it gets a little bit more difficult, but you can still use it to kind of see how crazy stuff gets. But on a macro kind of view, it's more difficult. In here, that was much easier. You had high funding in here. You had the opposite happening in here. You got like funding in the negatives all the way up. So funding has been pretty nice in this entire area. It's been less nice in this area, but then again, like this is anything but an ordinary run, right? A lot of people feel like they've been geniuses in this market, and I mean, the end result is still the thing that means the most, right? But like what most people don't realize is that they've just been sponsored by a shitload by Michael Saylor, by institutional buyers, right? So when you have like people rushing in, you don't have to do much to be the genius. And I mean, honestly, it's still genius. Like if you can just sit in this and just chill. Like I said before, I've taken profit along the way. Like if I followed my advice on the trading side of things, I'd be much richer in here. But yeah, there's been a massive sponsorship on the way up, right? And that's a good thing. That's something that you want to have because then trading gets easy and everyone is a genius. And you want to be in the market where everyone is a genius, at least while everyone is a genius. The moment it starts turning and people turn into idiots, right? In the GME case, for example, like you had everyone be a genius from like $5. If you look at the GME chart, and I'm not comparing this to Bitcoin, don't worry about it. But if you look at the GME chart, right, everyone was a genius from basically 4 to 20, and then everyone was a mega genius on these candles up. And then suddenly people started turning into idiots, right? And then it gets dangerous when you have these blow off tops and that kind of stuff. But we're nowhere near that. Or like we haven't seen this kind of move on Bitcoin yet. And I can't even imagine what that would look like on Bitcoin because, I mean, it's just plain vertical. And we haven't had that. If you look at, I mean, this is a pretty incredible move, right? But what it's done, it's gone up like this, right? It's not gone up like this. Very different kind of moves. So haven't had a blow off top, in my opinion. I mean, there's not necessarily, that doesn't have to be a blow off top, but if you look back at history, it's kind of been the case. So new world record, Donald BTC GME comparison, any percent. Jesus fucking Christ. That's why like I can't say anything anymore. I just get bullied. It's terrible stuff. But yeah, that's kind of it from the Bitcoin and ETH perspective. So ETH's been underperforming. A very interesting fact that I've kind of noticed in the last few weeks pretty much weeks, is that the slack that's been put in by ETH has been kind of picked up by Litecoin and other bigger coins. If you look back, ETH BTC, Litecoin BTC, right? It's a pretty good comparison to make. You've had Litecoin kind of pick up the slack a little bit. Still an undeniable strong trend for ETH, but this is a pretty nice move if you're looking at the older coins. I personally, I don't get excited too much unless we start breaking out of this red box. It's been tested a million times. You could make an argument for pretty much anything at this point. You could make an argument for say, okay, this this is gonna be an inverse head and shoulder, whatever, and people would believe you. You could say this is a head and shoulder, this is gonna be a top. People would believe you. This is just so choppy. It doesn't really like. It's just nothing, right? I think the more important kind of distinction to make, like besides the oh yeah, this is this or this is that, because of the underlying bias that you have, is just watching this area. If I see a close above it and see strength, I'm gonna get back into Litecoin. I've had this before. I've tried it before. Bought in here, sold somewhere up here, and I mean it's just pretty boring, right? But the reason why people are interested in Litecoin in general is just the ease of access, right? So you've seen what happens when retail people come into the market out of FOMO, trying to chase something. It's been happening in Dogecoin, right? These kind of rallies you get these rallies you get when retail comes in, right? So you get a crazy rally, usually full retraces, but still, right? If you're in this, you're gonna be more than happy, right? And if you've been front run, you're going to be more than sad. But I mean, it is what it is, right? And the reason why Dogecoin could pump so hard is because there's Robinhood excess. There's like every kind of big exchange trades this, even the ones that are kind of traditional market facing, right? So that is what happened with Dogecoin. And then you have other altcoins that are relatively easy accessible as well, like Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, XRP. I mean, you've seen XRP as well, right? The moment it starts going up, you have everyone in the world talk about it. It's not the same for the smaller names in the market. It's only the case for the bigger ones. And the reason for that is that the traditional markets can buy it too. So top is in when Don trades alt USD pairs. I mean, I'm trading altcoin USD pairs. I just find it, I don't know, I find it like a waste of time to look at them, other than to look for confluence between the two. Because really what you're doing is you're exchanging your Bitcoin into an altcoin. And if you're not doing that, I mean, if you're coming in with USD, fine, be my guest. But I mean, who does that in this market? I mean, if you're like new to the market, you have money that you don't like, that you want to put into it, look at the USD pairs for like but like for the average kind of cryptopian, it makes sense to have your money in Bitcoin, and it makes sense to see, okay, can I exchange that Bitcoin for something else, and is that gonna appreciate? So that's why I'm looking at least the older pairs on the Bitcoin side of things. Lots of people are doing it because one Bitcoin is expensive. Yeah, but you're still sitting in Bitcoin, right? And if you're looking at like getting into these altcoins with USD, I still think this should be the major kind of thing to look at, because I mean, if the BTC pair looks like shit, it doesn't really matter if a lot of people are buying the USD pair, because if the BTC pair looks like shit, you're still gonna underperform Bitcoin, right? So anyone worth their salt, in my opinion, should be looking at the Bitcoin pair. But then again, like, I mean, if you're trading this on leverage, it's a little bit different, because if you're trading it on leverage, right? If you're trading XRP USD on leverage for some reason, I mean, this is pretty nice, right? You can buy this level and be up a few percent off of this level. And it's very different, because your invalidation is going to be based on the USD pairs. But it's just, if you're rotating capital from one place to another, the Bitcoin pairs are the important ones. So yeah, can Doge drop below 0 sats? If you want to be looking at like coins that go to like 1 sat or whatever, I mean, very rarely do they drop below 1 sat, right? So NPXS, one of the crypto Twitter favorites of last season, right? Went to 1 sat, and now you're like, okay, how does this even work, right? It's trading at 1 sat. Who's buying? Who's selling there? And the answer is, on these kind of charts, everyone is trading the USD pair, because if you're buying, if you're, I mean, some people are getting very lucky and getting filled at like 1 and selling at 2 on this kind of thing. It's double already, right? But usually what happens when these coins drop to 1 sat is they're going to be traded in against USD or against other coins. Back in the day, it was against Litecoin or against Dogecoin. Nowadays, it's against USDT. So when you're dropping that low, you're going to trade at 1 always, And anyone that kind of touches the BTC pair gets wrecked, because if this trades at like 1/3 of one, it's still gonna show as one, obviously. And then if you buy at like you're not really getting anything out of it, right? So you're getting wrecked either way. So to answer that question, I don't think so. I don't think Dogecoin trades below 1 sat. It's gonna trade at 1 sat maybe, but yeah, like coins usually don't trade below 1 sat because they can't, right? I mean, that said, we've had, like, I remember back in the day, someone, an infamous, oh, who was it? I forgot. But back in the day, we had a coin traded nicely up, right? And there was a large whale in it. And he got pissed off by the devs, and he had like most of the supply. So what he did was he dumped everything he had and then put a sell wall at 1 sat. So it was basically trading, like no one could really do anything. It was completely fucked. I remember that still. If anyone knows the name, I forgot it. But yeah, it happened a few years ago. It was hilarious. I mean, hilarious for everyone that wasn't holding the coin, because that one literally just exit scam levels of down and then couldn't go back up because the sell wall at one was so big. Bitcoin is doing the thing. Yeah, I mean, Bitcoin's been doing the thing for a while now. So yeah, looking like it wants to go a little bit higher. 52,000 United States dollars. Yeah, it's crazy, man. To imagine that I sold some at 10 back in here. Ay, ay, ay. Oh well, shit happens. 492 people watching, only 104 likes. That is true. Travesty. So yeah, I mean, I'm watching Litecoin. I want to see that show some strength through the weekly block that I just mentioned. If that happens, I'd be more than happy to punt it again. Invalidation's pretty close, right? And target would be, I mean, I wouldn't target this. I would target this or this, right? So target would be quite far away. And if it does something like this again and then chills here, I'm just gonna be like, okay, fucking getting out, and then maybe get in on the impulse if I get it. But those kind of moves, I don't mind. And I don't mind exposing myself. Like, I mean, that sounded wrong. That sounded wrong. But I don't mind having some exposure. From support to resistance, if it doesn't do anything, I get out. Like in this case, like I made a few percent, and then it dumped off, and I would have been sad if I held it, right? I don't mind doing this game over and over and over again, because if it does be one of these at some point, I'm more than happy with it, right? And if it doesn't happen, I've had some exposure, so I've had the chance of this happening to my holdings, which is pretty nice, right? Until that happens, I mean, it's just a boring coin, right? It's just been going sideways forever. Same thing with Bitcoin Cash. With a little bit better of a setup, I still think like Bitcoin Cash is actually a really nice setup here. It's one of the ones where I've been going back and forth with myself, whether I want to... Why did that just move? Or whatever. I'll go with it. Whether I want to get some exposure or not. Still debating myself. Probably gonna get some and then just see where it goes. If it just chops around, just gonna get out. If not, yeah. But this just looks interesting to me based on the fact that it's finally reclaimed the support. You could argue that the resistance is up here, right? And I like that as well. So if anything, same like in that instance, if you want to be a little bit more cautious, on the cautious side, I mean, a move back above there would be a good trigger, I think. So not entirely sure if I'm gonna do that, as in wait for the break above it, or if I'm just gonna go for it. I'll decide in the next few days. But yeah, I don't mind this technically. That said, I mean, with talking about Litecoin and Bitcoin Cash, right? I mean, you can see how the trend is looking, right? And there's a good argument to be made that it makes no sense to chase these boring coins if you want to be while the market is hot in other areas. That said, we've had pullbacks on the other areas, and we've had strength in the older coins, right? So might be money rotating, might be the end of the cycle. I don't know, the altcoin cycle. I mean, as long as Bitcoin goes ballistic, you're probably not going to see any of these outperform too much. Too interesting to push like. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Will top 10 altcoins do X5 again against Bitcoin, in your opinion? At some point, I think yes. It's not entirely sure if it's going to be from here or if they're going to do the classical kind of dump and then go. I think one of the two is going to happen. I'm not entirely sure which one is going to be. So makes sense to kind of be positioned in any case, right? So like if it does break out, you get positioned. If it invalidates you, you get out and then try to buy the dump. Like that kind of makes sense to me in general. People always underestimate these coins until they move big. But yeah, that said, they've been heavily outperformed by other stuff, including Bitcoin, right? So do with that as you will. I just like to trade them because I know them and I know how they trade and I know how to trade them and I know how their liquidity works. But yeah, I'm one of the old guard or like old-ish guard where I'm just maybe I have to get with the times and just let these go. But yeah, I don't mind the technical setup above support if it does, or above resistance in this case. XRP, I'm just not going to touch. I still think there's a good, like we talked about the short setup in here. Actually, like if you had any short orders in the box, in the heaven box, which I mean we traded this with the target of home for the longest time, right? I think I drew that somewhere in here. It went all the way to home and then bounced, and then the SEC news came, broke below, and then we retitled it Heaven because that's the best kind of thing that you're gonna get, and that has acted as resistance. Now, if we can kind of reclaim that and look good up there, I think there can be a good run for XRP. But like, why would you bother with something where, I mean, you could nuke any day? It's just not worth it. Boomer dinosaur cope? I mean, maybe. Okay, will top 10, I already answered that. Is it worth looking at the Bitcoin dominance chart? I don't think so. We can look at it. I think it's completely useless. Just based on the fact that, let's say a new ICO, a new whatever comes in, right? A new coin comes in. You have nothing to do with it. It's a huge coin. It goes into the top 5. Bitcoin dominance is going to plummet, right? Your altcoin hasn't moved. You haven't made any money. You're just sitting there. Bitcoin dominance has dropped massively. You're going to see on Twitter everywhere, oh, Bitcoin dominance dumped so hard, everyone's making so much money. But it's basically just an ICO or a new coin get listed. I think it's completely useless. You can't even trade this really. And it depends on so many factors that have nothing to do with what is actually going on in the market. Now, if you want to look good and you want to look like a really smart person, keep talking about Bitcoin dominance because that attracts people, because it looks like, oh, he's talking about an index. It looks so smart. In my opinion, it's just, I mean, what do you do with it? It goes up and you're like, okay, I don't want to be in altcoins. Well, shit. It only goes up because altcoins dumped, right? So, I mean, I could have told you that. It goes down and you're like, oh, I want to be in altcoins. I mean, shit. It can only go down if altcoins go up, right? So, I mean, actually it can go down in multiple ways. That's one of the bigger flaws with it, right? It can go down with a listing. It can go down because of like a million-year-old coins kind of bug out and get a price pump of like 500k% without any volume. Shit moons. It's stupid in my opinion. Don't waste your time with it. If you have an edge on it, I mean, trade it. Fine by me. I'm not gonna bash any edge anyone has, but in my opinion, it doesn't really make much sense to watch. Do you think old dinosaur coins like Fun or Library would have a chance? Too much to ask if a zombie goes up to live again. In my opinion, in general, what you're gonna see with these old coins, right, is their final kind of pump, basically. I mean, not necessarily nano, right, but in general, like these old coins that have kind of lost their novelty. What I think happens if you really get an old season or whatever, um, across the market, not just in one sector. What you're going to see is you get a pump, and everyone that's been sitting in this for ages is going to try to run for the exit. It doesn't have to be nano, could be anything else, right? Because there's newer, better things around. And that is always going to be my opinion about these altcoins, because there's always going to be newer and better altcoin around. And it's something I've said in 17, something I've maintained since then. The money in the crypto market, like you have Bitcoin here, and then you have a bunch of altcoins here, right? And what happens is you have these altcoins, they go through a pump and dump cycle. I mean, this is how the crypto market works. And then you have back holders, maybe it pumps again, whatever. But like you have back holders that bought the top, because it always happens that way. Most people buy the top. And then it just fucks off, right? And then you get a new coin, and then maybe it starts dumping it, but then starts pumping, does the same thing, dumps, and maybe they have like 2 or 3 or 4 cycles in them, right? And then they pump again, and at some point they pretty much fizzle out. And that is pretty much what happens in the crypto space with altcoins. You have an altcoin, it's the newest tech. 2 years after, obviously, the tech has advanced. The vision that people have for cryptocurrencies advances. You get a new sector like DeFi, and these altcoins just bleed out, right? And then you sometimes get an exit pump. You sometimes get like pumps in general because the market is doing well. But if you're kind of married to your bags in this market, as long as your bag isn't Bitcoin, you're gonna get fucked. You might get like a really nice rally, right? And that's the thing, right? The people that are married to their bags and get in early, they're obviously gonna receive the most gains out of it all, right? Because you're sitting in this, you're never thinking about selling, right? And it goes parabolic. You make like 10, 20, 50, 100x. And then at some point, it's gonna top and gonna retrace most of it, maybe bounce again, put in another cycle, go back lower, and then at some point it's gonna fizzle out, most likely. Some coins have kind of withstood that. If you're looking at Litecoin, it's been around for a while, still not really too strong against Bitcoin, and this is not the oldest kind of chart. I have no idea when I drew this. Doesn't really matter either way. But yeah, so some of these, they just stick around and have a cycle, and they kind of cycle from the same area every time. Cycle floor-ish. I mean, depending on where you want to draw, it's the same with Dogecoin, right? And then they put cycle highs in, like that. Some of the older coins do that. It's the ones that have name recognition, and it's something that's really interesting when you see people talk about Bitcoin that have been in 17. Then they're gonna know Litecoin, and they're gonna know XRP, and they're gonna know ETH, and then other stuff not so much anymore, right? And this, like these bigger zombie coins, they're sticking around just because they have name recognition, and they can pump and dump just based off of, like, I mean, Dogecoin just pumped and dumped off of memes, basically, right? And that can happen. Whereas with the smaller coins, usually they just fizzle out. Now, I don't want to shit talk your bags too much. It's just the natural kind of cycle in crypto. Doesn't mean it has to be your bag. Like sometimes you get a new bag that gets in there and stays up there. But then again, like, I mean, it's been ETH basically, and most of the other stuff hasn't. But maybe that changes. Who knows? What do you think about Link? Is old but still pumping? Actually, I had like a decent, like I've been trying to get it set up on the long side for Link yesterday and today. So what I wanted to see is actually support come in at this level. So the daily chart, right, doesn't really look too bad in my opinion. So you've had this massive run up, and then the obvious bubble top. I mean, I've had a million link marines in my mentions shit talking this whenever I say it. I don't really care. This has obviously been the cycle top right now. Could we get like another cycle to the upside? I think so, as long as we can actually find support back in the range. And the range, if you're aggressive, is from like this green box here, in there. Now, if you're not as aggressive, I think the better range, or like the less aggressive range to draw, would be something like this, where you're like, okay, that was, I mean, I know that undercuts, it doesn't really matter. That was roughly, I mean, even you could even do this. That was roughly where it started going sideways and then started dying, right? But I think that's the more aggressive kind of entry, and I want to see it trade back above this area, and then I wanna take a trade off of it, because then you have a pretty nice invalidation, right? Let's say this pumps again, hopefully find support in here, or doesn't really matter, and then you have like a nice invalidation down here, or if you're less aggressive down here, and you can trade it into these highs maybe. Now, it's not doing any of that, right? It's showing weakness again where it shouldn't. I mean, honestly, not surprising given the fact that Bitcoin just rallying like 5 to 10% a day, basically. But still, like, you don't want to be trading your Bitcoin into Link if it's underperforming, right? So I want to see that get back above support, and then I might get interested, might take a trade on the long side for once, because I've been shorting this most of the left side. Now, obviously, can't short it anyway right now, so long side more interesting. But yeah, that's what I'm looking for Link. I hope it can reclaim that, because then it'd be a nice entry. You could make the same argument for the short side, right? If you have your invalidation here, if you've shorted any of this spike up, your invalidation up here, you could push it back down here and then trade for lower. Either way works. I think both setups are actually fine. The good thing is, once it does start going up there, the short setup gets invalidated, and that makes a good long setup. So yeah, and I'm only going to take the long setup if I get it, not going to take the short setup. And yeah, if that's the only kind of issue with this entire idea, is that the weekly, and I tweeted about this before, I tweeted about this actually here, I was like, if this goes back up here, all this is a bearish retest, and it's basically done that. So maybe I'm coping, maybe I'm just getting too antsy on this, and the really good entry is up here into higher, but I think at that point you probably missed most of the move. So yeah. The two traders that look at Link BTC globally didn't step in at your level. It's full of shit. And even then, like, Link USD has been shit in comparison to Link BTC. I mean, what the fuck do you do with this? Literally just chop City in here. Now it's going up, obviously, because everything is going up, because Bitcoin literally 10x'd. But what does this help you? You're sitting in Link and you've missed out the entire fucking Bitcoin rally. Like, that's the problem that I see with all this USD, talk, is that people are sitting here being like, ha, I'm up $10 on Link from 20 to 30, while Bitcoin literally doubled. And I mean, if you're looking back on it, 15th August 2020 is where this was at $20. Now it's up 60%, right? Now 15th August was here. Now, how much are you up if you just didn't bother with Link from there? And I know this is judging from the top, but still you're up like a shitload, right? So now the people that are looking at the USD pair are just complete idiots, because they've been getting fucked without even knowing it. And the people that have been looking at the BTC pair have seen this as an obvious kind of fractal of a bubble top, which has played out to perfection on the bearish side. And it's gone down. So I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Let me cope in peace. Let me cope in peace. It's the only thing I have left. After they took away trading from me. Fucking Germans, man. How many coins you hold on average? I see many people holding 20, 30 coins. Market is full of shit coins. Next bear market will be devastating. I don't really see a good reason why you want to hold 20, 30 coins. Like if you have a good idea for a coin, take it. But like you can't have 30 good ideas. Like that, if you're just gambling on any coin going up, I mean, go at it, but I don't think 30 coins is going to help you much, right? Let's say you have the best linked bull case down here, right? And you're like, oh, I like Link, so I'm gonna take a millionth of my holdings and gonna put it in Link because I have 29 other coins that I wanna be holding, and then it goes up 1,000,000%, and you're up 1% on your portfolio, even though you had strong conviction. I think that's idiotic. Much better is you pick strong ones that you like, that you have strong conviction for, and then you go with a couple. I mean, I think like starting at 10, you're getting there. You don't need more to be exposed to the kind of stuff that you want to be exposed to. Like for example, let's say you're bullish sushi, right? You're bullish Dexes. You're bullish sushi, right? You don't need to be buying like sushi, uni, whatever. What you can do is shift from one to the other when it gets relatively expensive towards the other, right? Sushi uni has been a really nice example. So whenever sushi goes vertical and uni goes sideways, you usually have like this go back down, this go back up, this go sideways, this go back up, this go back down. Like you've had this relationship, right? But you don't need to be spending unless you're kind of looking for an investment kind of things, and you like, oh, I want to be exposed to every kind of market in the crypto sphere. That's very different, right? But if you're trading this, why do you need like five? Like you determine, okay, this is the sector I'm want to go for the DEX sector, for example, or whatever, and then you pick the one that you think is strongest, and then you bid that with conviction. Now you could also like, I don't mind, like if you're like, oh, I'm bullish Dexes, I'm gonna be trading sushi and uni to the upside. That's fine, right? But if you're like, I like privacy coins, so I'm just gonna buy every single privacy coin, I think you're wasting your bullets basically. Like, I mean, you cannot follow anything. You're just basically at the mercy of the market. I cannot kind of recommend that. I think it's stupid. Why spend so much time talking about these old coins? Talk about the new hot ones. Because, like, let's say we're talking about sushi, right? Where do you think the next swing long entry is gonna be? Besides like low time frame, which I don't really talk about in public, because if I do, like if I share like low time frame trades on this on Twitter or anywhere else, it just moves in my direction just based off the fact that I've written about it. So I don't want to do it. But where's the next swing entry for sushi, right? And I mean, the next swing entry for me for sushi, this is a parabolic advance, right? Is this nukes mega hard, goes down 60, 70, 80%, and then we can talk about a swing entry on a longer time frame that I can actually recommend people take. Now, do I expect that to happen? No, right? So what am I gonna what am I gonna say about this? Like, there's not really much to say. If you're in it, you've been enjoying an incredible run up, right? And how you treat it is you assume it's bullish until proven otherwise, right? There's not really a good setup there to take. I mean, you can trade this lower time frame, but then again, like I said, I can't recommend any of those because if you go down on the 4 or whatever, it gets pretty hard to just say, okay, long in here, short in here, whatever, because I'm going to be influencing the market. So what you're going to do is the same thing that I've said for Bitcoin, which is you have an invalidation on your setup. And I'm familiar with this because, I mean, we've been talking about this in the newsletter since $2, right? Since in here. Your invalidation, like after this nuke, we started talking about it in the newsletter. Your invalidation was down here, it moved back up, pulled back a little, went further up, then you have your invalidation here, same thing, this goes further up, and you have a swing point, you have a swing point, you have a swing point. and you have a swing point, and it just keeps moving up. So the only thing I can say about these hot coins is, okay, yeah, you're probably shit out of luck if it does start taking out swing points, because then the parabola is probably broken. But anything other than that is pretty boring, right? And the moment I start talking about a parabola break, I get a million angry comments because because people are like, holy shit, you're so bearish on this, you're expecting to go down a shitload. And that's not necessarily the case. So I just avoid talking about it because, I mean, if you want to swing trade this, in my opinion, like, this is not something that I can get a good setup on. Doesn't mean this can't go to 50, 100, whatever. But there's not a good setup there, right? Whereas with Litecoin right now, you have a decent setup there. Now it's weaker, obviously, in comparison to Sushi, but there's a possible kind of swing setup there that I can talk about. Now, is that going to play out the same way as Sushi? No. If you're in Sushi from 60 or like from $2, should you be switching to Litecoin at the current moment? Probably not, but still interesting. Doc, I don't think you're gonna push Sushi around. Yeah, Sushi is a little bit of a different one, but still, like, I don't even trade these on a lower time frame, right? So why would I want to give like advice on the lower time frames on these ones? And I mean, I'm pretty sure I could have pushed this around in the $2, $3 range. The higher it goes, a little bit it gets a little bit difficult. But then again, like, even if I trade this on the 1 hour and post this on Twitter, like from like entry here, target here, I'm pretty sure I could push that around relatively easy. I could push that around on myself. So I just avoid it. Fuck that shit. So it's kind of like a mixture of both. One, I don't trade these on the lower time frames too much. I don't trade many altcoins on the lower time frames. I mean, it's been pretty nice, not gonna lie. But if I want to trade lower time frames, I stick to Bitcoin and ETH, and then to obviously having that problem. Always have been, like, in even in 17 and 18, I avoided talking about this stuff. Cool, I just clipped that segment as intent to manipulate markets. It's the exact opposite of what I said. Either way, let's move on. So that's kind of why I talked about this. But then again, like, I just talked about Link. That's the funny stuff, right? So I talk about Link now, and people are like, yeah, why are you talking about these old coins now, right? Now, the funny thing is, I said literally the same thing about like these new coins, whatever. I had to listen to the same thing in here, right? I was like, I don't think this goes much further. I'm bearish here, right? And then I was met with, okay, what the fuck are you doing? This has been trending a shitload. Now it's gone down a bit, and now it's an old coin that no one wants to talk about anymore, right? And that proves the point that I made earlier really well, right? You have these coins, they're hot, they have their cycle, and then they stop having their cycle, and then they're old and no one cares about them anymore. So I mean, it's just is what it is, right? It is what it is. But that's interesting to me because Link was the one that was pushed on me a million times in here, and now people are pushing like stuff on me that is new, not as old as Link is, keeps on going up forever. Yeah, I don't know. Link being called an old coin makes me feel ancient. Yeah, it's kind of where I'm at as well. Link is one of the new ones. I still like Nano is one of the new coins for me, and that's not as old as Link. That's not as young as Link is. But yeah, we can. I mean, we can talk about. Let's talk about new coins. Give me a ticker. We'll talk about it. Give me a good one. Are top 10 coins a safer bet in next old run? They will run less hard, but also drop less hard. I mean, that's generally true, yeah. It's not a better bet, but it's a safer bet. Because these older coins are more likely to stay around, while the newer coins are more likely to fizzle out. Cred saying hex. Gonna ban that. Gonna ban that old dude. It's over. XVS. Okay, what's that? this is always the point where I get shield coins. I have no idea about this, right? But the fact of the matter is, and this is why I hate talking about this kind of stuff. Like, okay, if you talked, like, if you asked me in here, or whatever, right? I'm saying, okay, this is the high. If it breaks that, it's probably gonna go into price discovery. Now it's done that, right? And if you've got an entry down here, you do the same thing as I always say, where it's like you just move your stops or your invalidation higher, right? Now, what do I tell people on a TA basis that are not in this, that do not know this, to do? It's impossible, right? Because I'm like, if this is fundamentally sound, it's gonna go higher, right? Because there's no reason for it to go lower. It's just broken out. It's moved the shitload already. Can move a shitload more, right? Now, if this is a shitcoin that just rug pulls, it's just rug pulls, right? And then it goes lower. So in these kind of, like, with these kind of charts, there's nothing that you can say based on the chart of the macro kind of direction, instead of like saying, okay, this is probably going to go higher because it's gone higher. But it depends on the fundamentals more than anything, or the pumpermentals, as you will. So this doesn't really help you anything, because I can't really give you good advice on this. And people pretend to be giving good advice on this. I mean, I could start drawing like, oh, this is a rising wedge, whatever. It's probably going to go down, but that's bullshit, right? Because if one person with, like, at this point, one Bitcoin buys into, I don't know how much volume this has, it's probably gonna break out again, right? So, like, charting this stuff is all well and good, but it doesn't really matter, like, what you draw on the chart, because if it's fundamentally sound, it's gonna go up. If people are in the mood of pumping it, and if not, it's gonna go down. So, like, there's not enough price history to kind of make, okay, this is where I'm gonna take a target. This is my bet that I'm taking on this. You get the point. It's pure trash. I mean, I don't know. No idea. Okay, Jesus Christ, all these tickers. Oh, Cake. Cake is one I like. Cake I've been interested in for a while. So we talked about this, I think, last stream, where I said, okay, this is gonna go up until proven otherwise. Otherwise would be this. And I think we actually were trading in here, I think. And then that doesn't really help you much either. Same situation, right? But this is a little bit, I mean, most people could tell this was going to go up just based on the fact of what it is. I mean, it's just basically the answer to high Ethereum fees, right? And yeah, it's just been straight up. And with these kind of things, I mean, you just move your invalidation higher. If you're not in, you've kind of, I mean, sucks for you, right? You either buy and you might be the top, or you just sit out, wait for supports, but you're probably never gonna, like, the thing is, like, the moment supports start getting hit, like, let's say this retraces and hit support, it's gonna do something like this and then dump more. So you're kind of shit out of luck if you're expecting support to be hit and then for it to go higher, just based on the fact that how parabolic this has gone, right? So with these kind of charts, what I like to do best when I trade them is, one, you just stick with it. And then, like, you see this, right? You see a support get hit, this or this. Like, let's say this would have gone in here. Then you look for an exit on the bounce. And it's the same thing here. And if it goes sideways here, goes higher, it's the same thing again here, right? So you have support in here then. And if it hits support, it's gonna bounce like 90 out of 100 times. And then you cut on the bounce, and then you can get back in above the high, right, if you want to, and play it further, but that's the safest way to get out, in my opinion. So you can kind of play the Ponzi until it stops Ponziing, and just stick with it. It's the best kind of thing to do. But yeah, Cake's an interesting one, just based on the fact, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of Binance and all that kind of jazz, but whenever you have this, one of the things that I find very important in the markets, and that is underappreciated, I would say, is the narrative kind of game that all these markets go through. You have ETH fees go up, and you get a competitor that has lower fees. People won't care that this is centralized. People won't care that this is something entirely different. They're just gonna see, okay, this the same thing, it's gonna go up. So I'm gonna buy it. And that's like all the narrative that you have to use in this case. So it's pretty damn simple, and it's the way to go, in my opinion, in these markets. So you just chase the narratives or try to predict the narratives in the best case, right? And something that you can kind of look at, it's back in the day was a little bit easier because what you had was Bitcoin fees went up, so money went into ETH, right? So you have Bitcoin here. Bitcoin fees went up a shitload, money went into ETH. ETH fees went up a shitload. That's kind of what crypto does best, right? And went into something else, and then the fees went up, and the money flew into something else. And at some point, people were like, "Oh shit, this is entirely broken." And then we got the mega sell-off. Now we don't have that situation. Like that was literally how this 20k top played out. People realized that Bitcoin was unusable at 20k, and just put their money into altcoins because they should be able to handle it. And then ETH started being unusable, and then you had a bunch of other stuff get unusable as well. And that's kind of how this all played out. Now, doesn't have to obviously play out the same way, but in general, like ETH gets high fees, starts being not so nice to kind of trade in anymore, and then you start see ETH underperform in comparison to other stuff. It's just how this market works, and Cake took advantage of that. Okay, let's look at one more, and then I call it a day. GRT. I mean, that's another one of the straight up moon coins. But yeah, we've had a little bit of a pullback now. So in this case, I mean, this is the obvious support level, right? I probably dropped down the level time frame. So yeah, what you've had in here is, it's funny how these always play out similarly, where you get these spikes up, these euphoria spikes up, and we can look at it on the USD. It's actually better on this one. You get these spikes up, you get sideways here, get a breakdown, back into the rally, into this area, and then another breakdown, right? This kind of pattern should be familiar with everyone that's kind of been trading this market for a longer time, because it's literally how these play out every time after a blow off top happens. The good thing is that doesn't have to mean that the top's in, right? So you get these blow off tops, and then they play this out on a lower time frame fractal of the higher time frames in other markets. So I mean, this, for example, looks very like Bitcoin did, right? So you look at this, right? Let me remove everything, and it's kind of how in general markets look like a blow off top. So it's something that you should be familiarizing yourself with. So you have, let me put this in the daily, hide everything. So you have this kind of structure, right, where you kind of top in out, you go back down, put in, Jesus Christ, I don't know, probably made the same argument before on the same chart. You put in this kind of sideways action, you break down, you bounce back into that exact area, you break back down, you end up pretty much where the wick ended up. It's the same thing here, and then you go sideways and either pump from there or capitulate from there and then go further up. It's kind of been the playbook for pretty much anything. That's basically how I've looked at Link and figured out that was probably gonna be close to topping. Same deal. It's pretty much every time it's the same kind of thing. And then you can even see that sideways move into capitulation down here, right? So it's always similar, always catches people off guard in this fractal as well. So you have like this is on the 4 hour, this is on the daily. Bitcoin was on the daily as well, but yeah, you get the point. So, I mean, does this have to go down now? Obviously not. I mean, most of this move has already played out, right? So you're basically in here. Could obviously break down. It all depends on how the altcoin market goes. But I mean, you shouldn't be taking this as gospel, right? So some people, they notice these kind of factors and they're like, okay, this has to play out 1-to-1 the same. It doesn't. It's just something like while this is playing out, you kind of notice it. And then you can, for example, this is the best place to take a trade off of it, right? On the short side. You see the flow off top, you see that sideways kind of movement in here, and you're like, okay, this is probably gonna capitulate some, and then you can take the trade. But the longer this goes into the fractal, the more dangerous it gets. So would I want to short this? Probably not. If anything, what you get is if this breaks down, you might get the same thing with Link, just on the lower time frame, right? It doesn't have to play out the same. And I wouldn't say, okay, short this down here and then long it up here. But if it does start breaking down, I mean, that's a good entry to get, in my opinion. And that corresponds well with like support in this area where it gets undercut a little bit and then rallies, whatever. You get the point. I don't have to explain it too much. But it's kind of funny, you see this kind of stuff all over the place. Who knows if we get another COVID dump? I mean, the one thing that I want to, before I kind of end it, the stream, obviously. One thing I find curious is that the bid on gold has been kind of disappearing. And I've read a couple, I've kind of read a couple of opinion pieces from hedge funds and that kind of stuff on why that is. And a lot of people are saying that this is basically because Bitcoin is taking away gold bid, which I could see, honestly. It's kind of funny. Gold, like the gold people were shit talking Bitcoin, and then they were outperformed by it, and now Bitcoin's leeching off support. It's kind of funny. But yeah, this looks pretty shit, in my opinion. I mean, it could go up, could go down, whatever. It's not my market, right? I don't really have a horse in the race. Like, honestly, like I would never buy gold if I can have, like, if I have the opportunity to buy Bitcoin. So I mean, it's basically the same thing, right? Like I wouldn't, even if I like gold, I just think Bitcoin's the better gold, right? So why would I touch this? But yeah, I'm not a big fan of this kind of structure, and I want to see how this acts. Like if this starts breaking down, right? Is it just because Bitcoin is taking away bid, or is it because the narrative of like the flight into gold, whatever, is breaking down, which I think would be bearish for Bitcoin as well. I think it's probably more of the, okay, Bitcoin is taking away the bid than anything else. But I want to see how that plays out. Like if it shows massive weakness, if that's going to translate into Bitcoin or not. I'm going to be watching that, see how it, like I could see a correlation kind of. It's one of the things that happens with Bitcoin a lot, where you get like a short-term correlation that you can trade off of, and then you make a bunch of money and you get out and just don't use it again, because Bitcoin always shatters those kind of correlations. The same thing with the stock market, right? When the stock market dumped, you got correlation in crypto, and then Bitcoin just broke it at some point in mega moons. So wouldn't take that for a long kind of, as in I wouldn't take that as I want to trade this 1-to-1. But sometimes you get small time frame kind of correlations, and I want to see if this breaks the support that it's sitting on, if that is kind of going back into Bitcoin, in the Bitcoin market, that would be something to trade off of. And if it doesn't, I mean, we just watch gold shit the bed while Bitcoin is taking away everything they love. Bitcoin is the better gold. Peter Schiff crying somewhere. Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, I'm a zoomer, right? I don't see the point for gold. I see the point for like, I mean, I'm not a big fan of the entire like gold narrative in the first place. But if I wanted to get into that narrative, I'd much rather have Bitcoin than gold. What's the point of altcoins, even from a trading perspective? Much less risk to play Bitcoin than these. I mean, the upside is bigger. The risk is bigger, the upside is bigger. It's just how it is, right? Some people want to make a bunch of money quickly, and that's why the altcoins are good for. Bitcoin is approaching a territory where it's not going to be an easy times 100 anymore, and you can get that on some altcoins. I mean, it's gonna bite you in the ass most of the time, but doesn't have to, right? So yeah. So yeah, I think that's a good way to end it on. Appreciate you coming by. Appreciate Bybit for sponsoring the show. Their links are in the description if you want to check them out. And yeah, we'll see each other on Friday when Craig and I talk with maybe a guest. I don't know. I haven't talked with Craig about it, but we'll come up with something that's going to be fun. So yeah, see you guys on Friday. Thanks for coming by, and till next time. Bye bye.